Okay, great. So, hi everybody, and my name is Bruce Brown. I'm with InforMission Solutions. We're a Silicon Valley software development company, and we've been involved with this RLA standard process for about 2 years now in terms of working with the committee and being part of the discussions trying to help get the standard evolved. And I just wanted to mention, I know that the callers are coming in from a bunch of different disciplines. So some of the things that we've already said probably have resonated with you because maybe you were involved in reverse logistics. Or maybe it resonated with you because you're part of the sales and marketing team and you're thinking about how you can increase your sales or increase visibility into what happens to your products. And I just wanted to reinforce what Ron and Ken have already said. The interesting thing that we've got is by putting a very simple thing, a formatted label that is readable by smart devices on products, on displays, and so on, we can affect a change in the way the world operates in terms of business. We can make it easier for consumers to make purchases, for consumers to get support, for manufacturers to increase their sales. So we're talking about real bottom line business issues here. And I just dug up this slide while Ron was talking because it reminded me that of some of the issues that we talked about early on in the committee. For instance, extended warranty sales represent a lot of money for companies. There's a really good markup on those, assuming, of course, your products are doing well. And the probability of buying an extended warranty drops by 50% the minute that the customer walks out the door. Well, we've got a way to put a button on their smartphone so when they scan the product, it offers them another opportunity to buy an extended warranty. Product registration, you know those little bounce back cards that you're supposed to fill out every time you buy something, or you're supposed to go to a website to fill them out? Nobody does it. There's like less than 1% product registration. So what's the downstream effect of this? The effect is that companies don't get that opportunity to continue to market to people who've already bought their products. So there's that brand loyalty that's a possibility. And on the reverse logistics side of it, we get up to 15% warranty fraud because people return stuff that's out of warranty, it's years old, they didn't register it, and the companies just don't want to fight about it. So we can affect all of that. We can make it easy for the consumer. We can make it easy for trade-ins, upgrades, warranties, for all this loyalty. On the return side, I think you've already heard about returns and also tech support, having to call up and get people who have you spell your name 5 or 10 times while they're filling out a form and so on. It's really a tedious process, and we believe that we have some technology here that will help facilitate that because we can make it easier to get through the problem solving from determination and the returns process, even to the point of having the RMA, the returns paperwork, pop up on your printer at home just so you can stick a label on a box if that is what's needed. We went into, as a committee, we went into a lot of details about the recycling industry and how we could improve that whole industry by putting better labeling on both on the outside of the product and the inside of the product so they could identify hazardous materials, that they could identify valuable materials, precious metals and so on in a more efficient way. If you happen to ever watch one of these YouTube videos about how recycling companies work, they are the biggest trash masher in the world. They just tear things to shreds, melt it down, and hope they get the right stuff out. It's only on the very expensive stuff that they actually can take the time to try and figure out what things to pull out by hand. And finally, if you're a manufacturer, my favorite example is walking into my local Walmart, looking at a wall of big screen TVs and going like, oh wow, those three look really good. I wonder what the difference is between them. And then realizing there was nobody in that store who could answer my question, at least nobody who was paid to answer my question. If I could walk up to that same product display, scan a code on the display, and in this case we keep talking about QR codes, but these specially formatted QR codes, I could actually push a button on that and get pre-sale support on my phone to answer a question. Or I could get a display on my phone that's highlighting major features, major reasons to buy. In other words, as a manufacturer, I can start affecting sell-through in big box stores, something that I've never really been able to do before. So as Ron and Ken have been saying, the solution is this funny little QR code, but not just your mother's old QR code. It's the QR code using our new labeling standard that sets a way for manufacturers to put information in that code covering a bunch of different things. So here we've talked about, I think we showed the screen earlier, registering the product, getting repairs, returns, accessories, and so on. So lots of opportunity here. Let me just quickly show you another view of this, and then I'm going to give you a really high-level overview of what it would. Sorry, wrong screen. My bad. Here we go. So here's, if you will, a traditional cell phone, and as always, you would come to an app, and let's say our app was called Scanner Demo or something. So you would hold your phone up to the QR code. In a second or so, it would scan it, and then you would see information looking something like this. And this may be a little bit small on your screen, but I tried to make it about as big as I could. But basically, and this is just a demo, but basically we're going to be showing, the product was made by Panasonic. It's a 4K TV. If you have pre-sales questions, if I just clicked on that or you were to touch on it on your phone, in this case, I'm actually showing you a phone number just to drive the point home. But if this was actually on your phone and you touched pre-sales question or whatever words to mean that, you would have the phone ringing and somebody would be on the line with you to answer your question so you can decide whether you want to buy that product or not. You get it home and you need support, this could run you to a chat, it could run you to a website like I'm showing here, or it could end up being another phone number where you're getting technical support on the line. So all of these things are things that you can find now, if you dig around enough time and spend enough of your personal effort on websites, going to a manufacturer's website, trying to find the exact product number, trying to find which group you call for support or can't call for support, and so on and so forth. But we're putting it in a very standard sort of way, so it's like super easy. You scan it, you touch a button, you get product support. You touch a button, you register the product. You want to buy the extended warranty that we were talking about before, those lucrative warranties, you touch that. Here I'm showing a URL, but we're actually designing this application so that when you touch that button, you can go ahead and make the purchase of the extended warranty in just a click or two. Really, really simple. So that's the idea, and I know I'm talking kind of fast, but hopefully you guys are hearing the idea. And just to show you a little bit of the magic behind the mirrors here, here's an example. Now this is something that we use by the folks in your organization who are actually making the labels, and I'm not going to try and teach you how to make labels. That's not the purpose of this phone call, nor is this the final system. But I just wanted to show to you that as one is creating a label, you pick which fields you want, decide what kind of information they're going to contain, whether it's going to be a phone number, open up a chat session on the phone or a messaging session, just have some text in it, like in this case, the manufacturer's name is GoPro, so it's just plain text. Could open up a video conference or video chat with you, or could take you to a website. We've also created ways that, and this is some of the things that InforMission has done that are above what the standard requires. So the standard just has the fields. We've added these kind of usages for the fields so that as a manufacturer you can specify what you want to happen for an individual field. You can also decide that certain fields will be hidden, meaning that they will not be shown to consumers, and we have a professional version of the app, so the app like I was showing on the last screen, so that you can see those. And then we've also added, although it's not shown here, the ability to encrypt the fields so that if you have confidential information, you don't have to display it. It can only be displayed for on devices that you've approved to read that. An example of this, by the way, is we heard from, I guess a half a dozen or a dozen refurbishers who said that a lot of times there's so many products coming back and products come back repeated times, they want to stick a label inside the product that talks about each of the problems they found the last time it was in and the steps they took to remediate the problem, because, and they don't want anybody to be able to read that but them, so they want to actually encrypt the information. And their feeling is that they need that in addition to serial numbers because it's just too easy for products to get sent to multiple repair centers and other issues. So, and then Ken was just mentioning Dell. Dell had mentioned a huge problem with counterfeiting of their products. People buy a product thinking it's made by Dell, but it was actually made by some counterfeiter. Then Dell gets it back because there's some issue with it, and they need a way to quickly decide whether they were the guys who actually made the product or not. And we talked about them encrypting certain information on the label, both on the outside of the product and possibly a label on the inside, so that they could decide very, very quickly whether it was a genuine Dell product or not. This includes the components inside. So, once again, not trying to go into too much detail here, I just wanted to mention that there's a whole bunch of fields. The standard is a living, evolving standard with more fields getting added all the time. And that's great. You don't get obsoleted because you put a label on. Whatever fields you use stay there forever. It's just new fields become available over time. And the software takes care of error correction and producing labels in different sizes. And also there's and I just made the label preview here a little bit smaller for you. And there's a version of this for those of you who are more in the production end of the world that hooks in with your production system. So if you have an enterprise resource planning system, ERP, distribution system, something where it's automatically producing labels, like, and each label is different. For instance, each product has a unique serial number, and you want to have the serial number included in the label. Then our plug-in version of this application takes over. And then I just want to share one last thing with you, and I'll be very quick about it. But this is, to me, is really, really exciting because it's a vision of what will happen in the future. So this is in a simplistic version of an analytics system. So for those of you who deal with those kind of systems, please understand this is just meant for simple demoing, not for a detailed look at how those work. In this system, we've got a bunch of retail stores. So this is Lowe's, and you'll notice that it's changing cities. So different cities for Lowe's, Home Depot, Fry's Electronics, some stores you're probably familiar with. And we've been talking about how people can go into a store and scan one of these labels on a product display and get information that would be useful for them in deciding whether to buy or not buy the product. Then we've talked about how when they take the product home, there would be a different label on the packaging or on the product that they would scan, and that would have things like serial number and so on, so they could register it, they could get product support. Well, every time they scan, whether they're scanning in the retail store or they're scanning at home, or it's getting scanned because it's now in a recycling center or a repair center, every one of those is a place for us to gather information because smart devices are geolocation aware. They know where you are when you're scanning, and with users' permission, which is generally what people give, we can track each one of the scans that's done. So, for instance, here, scans at Best Buy and in Milpitas at this particular time, the code was scanned, and in particular, the person touched on the button for product support. In Palo Alto, somebody wanted to get accessories. They touched on the button. Another one wanted product support. So I'm starting to gather some interesting information about how people are dealing with the product once it's left the manufacturing dock. And in particular, if I come down someplace, I made the screen big, but here, Home Depot. So we were using GoPro as our guinea pig. They provided some products for us at the show, and they're very enthusiastic about the standard. And so I use an example here where you can see at Home Depot, every single time somebody scanned a GoPro or went and scanned a display for GoPro cameras at Home Depot, they ended up with a pre-sales question. Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, we all know Home Depot doesn't sell GoPro cameras. But my point is that interesting data starts showing up which would allow you to say, oh, this store is selling better than these other stores. Why is that? What can I do to affect marketing? Are there better product displays there? Is there better sales support? What can I do to improve the bottom line? Or if I start seeing a whole bunch of certain products showing up for the minute people get home, they're immediately on the line with tech support, I know I got a problem. And the sooner I can identify that problem and the sooner I can fix it. Similarly, if it's only that they have a problem in a particular location or buying from a particular store. So once again, kind of fast. This was meant to be an overview, not detailed in terms of how you actually would use the product. But I did want to hand over to Paul Rupp now, and Paul's going to give us a demo showing how these codes can be used by one of those major systems like enterprise resource planning system, distribution system, return system. So Galen, once again, if you could help us with passing the baton.
Bruce, if you could just hop back to the first demo screen you were showing, just one quickly. The one where you generate the codes. It's kind of in the back of the background right now.
Sure, this one.
The one over on the far right there. Yeah, that one. The takeaway, an additional takeaway out of this is that we're aware that if you're a company with a lot of SKUs to manage, you've thought of, I got to make a QR code for every one of these. The Bruce didn't go into it, and I'm not saying you need to, but if you click on the templates there, you can create the person at GoPro could create this QR code and then save it and bring it back later and edit it if the name or the model number or the ID or something changes. And then I could save basic templates where all the fields are populated and just have to add one little thing. So we've been working to develop tools to make it hopefully not terribly burdensome for somebody to manage all these QR codes. So we've really been trying to think through a lot of the things that people would need to be able to, the tools someone would need to be able to implement this. I just wanted to make sure we got that point made. So Galen, if you could pass it on.
That's a good point. Also, somebody just raised their hand, so got to figure out how to get. Tim, are you, can we hear you? Do you have a question, Tim? Might want to check and see if your microphone's turned on.
I don't think his mic is.
Okay, well, okay, on your screen, can you see if he's typing in a question or chatting or anything?
You should be able to see questions. Let's see here. I'm taking a peek. Nope, I don't see anything from Tim.
Okay, well, maybe he can either try again or...
You can send him from your screen, you can send him a text, okay, a chat.
Okay, so I'll do that, but I want to make sure that we give Paul a chance to do his part of the presentation. So, Galen, what do we need to do to hand it over to him?
Nothing, he has control.
I have control. Hi. So Paul Rupp now here, and I'm with Andlor Logistics Systems, and we're a logistics software company, and specifically we have a product called Backtracks, which we use to manage logistics. And what I'd like to do today is share my screen, but also I want to show you from a returns processing perspective how having these QR codes or having codes with multiple data in makes our life so much easier on the returns processing side, particularly when you use something what I call smart software. And so we're in the logistics world, we're very used to just dealing with single barcodes, but now we'd like to be able to deal with multiple pieces of data at the same time, and we can take that information and by using smart software, it'll help us make many more decisions. When we're moving products in a forward direction, the processing is quite straightforward. But when we have to process returns, The more information we have, the better decisions we can make, and really what we're trying to do is get those returns processed quickly and make get them converted into other forms of cash. So let me just hold there, and how do I, Gail, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing how I share my screen.
Oh, do I have it?
No, I have control. I just need the share. I don't, meeting share.
On the menu bar up at the top, Paul.
Got it. Okay, I am sharing my screen now. So just to start out, so we've been talking about these codes on the Reverse Logistics RLA website. If you go to the Standards Committee area, we have listing of fields. So here's a quick listing. So there's lots of fields. Right now we're at about 75, but actually there's a lot of fields. And we're actually also partnering with some of the big companies like the GS1 group, which already has the standard for all the barcodes that you see in retail. So they're very excited to be partnering with us on the return side. So so I just thought I'd mention that just as we get started. Okay, so our goals again in terms of processing. So how do these QR codes help us on our side? So we can be faster processing, more automation, handling returns. Processing returns requires a lot of handling, and what we're trying to do is find ways to handle them less, using faster processing, automating things more, using less labor, less training for our staff, because again, with more information there, then we have the people that are handling the returns have less need to make judgment calls because some of the information's there, so we can make better decisions. Again, with using smart software, the software can take that information and process it, and then tell the user what needs to happen. And again, typically with our returns, first we want to make sure we've got a happy customer, but second, we want to make sure that we're able to recover value out of them, out of the products that are coming back. And if it's time consuming, then lots of times Amazon used to throw all their books in a truck and sell it by the truckload. But if it's quick and easy to process the returns, sometimes we can gain a lot of value.
Paul, can you just click on that maximizing your screen in the upper right-hand corner of that presentation?
And just to make it larger?
Yes, it should make it bigger.
Here, I'm just going to do this, actually.
Thank you.
So these codes, so how do we speed receiving at a returns processing facility? So we're just going to go through that. As you know, sometimes the returns are coming back in. Somebody has to handle them. So they're going to scan. So today we're going to show you how you can scan the product, and then they've got to make a decision. Oftentimes, so now we've got this return product. Unlike forward logistics, where we just put it on a shelf in a warehouse, or if I'm at the retailer, I put it back on the shelf in the retail store or in the inventory. Lots of times things are in different conditions. So the more information we have about those conditions, the better decisions we can make. Sometimes we're going back to a refurbishment. Sometimes it's out of warranty. We may send those back to the customer. Sometimes we just need to scrap it either because it doesn't have much value or it's damaged. So the nice thing is at the bottom, one QR code scan can capture many data fields, and that'll help us with our decision processing. So I'm going to do 3 examples this morning. We were kind enough to, GoPro was kind enough to lend us some product at the show. So we've got 3 scenarios. The first scenario is just a fast scan. So on the lower, at the top is the QR code, and the bottom is the fields. So the key fields that we want in processing that we're interested in, we know it's GoPro's manufacturer, but the second key field is what is the product. So in this case, the red field that's highlighted tells us it's model number C31 31211, and then it also tells us what the serial number is. So I know what the serial number is, and that may help us in processing and certainly tracking. So on our first scan, that's really all we're interested in. On the second scan I show you, what we do now is we take advantage of the smart software. So we not only do we take the model number, so we've identified what the model number is, and the serial number, but now we're also looking at the date of manufacture, which is on the code, and the length of the warranty. So it's 12 months, and we can see it was manufactured in 2012. So we know there's a pretty high likelihood that this product is out of warranty, and we're going to want to handle that differently. In the third scenario we're going to show, we've got a product which is actually the battery pack for the GoPro. What's happening in this case, so when we do the scan, we know what the product is, we know what the serial number is now, but we also want to know what the material is that's in there. So that material will tell us that, hey, you know, this is not just a regular thing, it's got a battery in it, and we need to special handle it because it's got lithium-ion within the system. So we want to be careful of how we're doing that. So, so with those three things in mind, I'm just going to flip over to software. So this is our software. It's web-based, and just show you what it's like in real life in a warehouse or in a retail store when you're having to handle these, and then the savings that we're going to get, and the way it's so much easier when we've got information. So sorry, there's lots going on. So I'm just at a home screen. And the first thing I'm going to show you, so this would be assuming we've got an RMA coming in from a customer. So if it's coming in on an RMA, or if I'm Best Buy, I've got I don't have an RMA. I'm just handling product at the receiving level, but this would be in a warehouse or a third-party processing center, and the process will be the same in both those scenarios. So in this case, I know I've got the Hero Black coming in, a Hero 3, a Hero 4, a Hero 3, and a battery pack coming back, and I'm waiting for a whole bunch of units. And these are coming back in a truckload from the Walmart return center, for instance. So the first thing I want to do is to start receiving them, and I'm going to use mobile receiving. Let's make it a little larger for you. So this can be done on, typically it's done on a hand scanner, but we can use it on a bigger screen as well. So when those receipts come in, so I've got a return that's coming in. I know what the RMA or the order is. So the next thing I do is I just take the scanner and I scan the field in. So what happened there was because normally in receiving we've got to do two scans. We've got to scan once to find out what the item is. This is if it's got a scan barcode at all, which the standard will help a lot with just by having things barcoded, because lots of products that are coming back don't have any barcodes on them at all. But in this case, we know we were able to scan the barcode. Next thing we've got to do is scan the serial number. Well, because we had a QR code scan, I don't have to do two scans anymore. So I've just got the item. I scanned once, that gave me the item code. It gave me the serial number, and it tells me that it's containing, in this case, it's containing gold. So we're not as concerned about that as in terms of being, it's a recoverable metal, but I don't need it in this decision. And it tells me that I've received that serial number already. And so that was our first one. So that was our fast scan of our Hero 4. Our second product that we're doing is we're going to do a fast scan, and this is our Hero 3. This is the old one. So hopefully we want the software to tell us that it's out of warranty. And again, we get that all in one scan. So if you want to see what a scan looks like, so essentially when the scanner reads it, it's going to read a long line of code that looks like this. So in our second scan, again, it's the same order. So we scan the QR code, and it goes like this. It tells us automatically it's the CHE, which is the Hero 3. Now, because it's smart software, we've got it set up to ask the user, tell me what condition this is in, and they're going to say, okay, this unit's damaged. Comes back and says, okay, I know what the serial number is, and I know it contains silver. And as soon as they enter that, again, because we're using smart software, it tells us, okay, that unit is out of warranty, because it knew, based on the warranty dates, it knew that this was out of warranty, and we wanted to special handle it, so it's telling the user to move it to scrap, and the user says, okay, that's fine, and let's go back and do another one. So again, the processing was easier. Now we're going to process the third one, which is, in this case, we've got the lithium-ion battery. So again, our code looks like this. That's stored in the background on the QR code. And as soon as we go, we do a quick scan. Battery pack comes back, and again, we're asked what condition it's in. We tell them we're going to scrap it, and we enter it, and it says, this unit contains metals. Have you scrapped it correctly? So again, we want the users to know. The users would have certain rules, so normally the message would say they wanted to put it into a specific location or a specific area. In this case, we were just asking the question, and we click OK, and we're done. So kind of a simple process, and as a quick summary, that was all that I had to go through. But it just wanted to give you a bit of an indication on the operation side of how the QR code makes our life so much easier. Back to you, Ron, I guess.
I've got a question there, Paul. From your experience in playing with this, how much time on an intake transaction would you guess this enhanced scanning saves per unit? A minute? 2 minutes?
There's two time savings things. One, the first time saving is the scanning time. So on your scanning time, we're saving 2 or 3 scans, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're processing, like lots of the facilities are processing 2,000 or 3,000 of these units a day per person, so it adds up to quite a time savings. The second time saving is because we have so much information there, we can set up the smart receiving and the rules engine. The rules engine's in it, and that saves a huge amount of time. What happens in a lot of returns operations now is they'll take something once, they'll scan the item code, and then it's got to go to a different station, and that station's where they assess what the condition is. And the next station, okay, did we get a serial number, and oh, does this one have metal in it? So it gets handed off numerous times, and it's that handoff time that we're trying to get rid of. And because we've got a lot of the data, we can push all that decision making back to the first guy that's touching it, and that's where the real savings arises.
So a significant time savings by doing this.
Yes, and also better disposition. So again, with more information, we can make decisions up front, and typically it's going to result in faster processing and better disposition decisions, so we can get higher value out of the products that have been returned.
Good.
Well,
so it's Mike. I have a question.
Please.
So Tim was trying to ask a question of, I think you mentioned that there's 4,000 character codes in these scanning labels.
Yes.
Does that change with the size? I know that you can see different sizes, so if you end up with a smaller label, do you end up with smaller character, or is it a higher density?
And that's where each manufacturer has to sort of balance his own sense of the size, the resolution, and choose the specific content. I will point out, though, that the technology behind this as optics. I mean, right now my cell phone camera handles like 12 megabits or whatever, pixels, sorry, and that's increasing. So I expect this to be a moving standard where as technology evolves, the 4,000 characters is just today's limit with a relatively large QR code. Yes, smaller codes have less capacity, but this will evolve.
So I just want to say it a slightly different way. The QR standard allows for excuse me, up to 4,000 characters to be put into those little squiggly lines. And obviously, if you make the QR code a ½ inch by a ½ inch, those little squiggles get really, really close together. So it's harder and harder to read them the more you put into it. And part of what we do on the software side is we actually produce warnings as people are creating labels. So if you try and put in so much information in a label and make it so small, we start putting up some warnings saying, you know, X% of the world's cell phones won't be able to read this, for instance. So it's reasonable. Remember, though, our vision is that companies are going to put different information on different codes based on usage. So you'll probably have 4 or 5 or 6 fields that you'll use on a retail product display because it's all about just trying to close the sale. And then when the first customer gets the product home, the label on there probably has some more fields because it's about selling extended warranties and registrations and tech support and all that kind of stuff. So far we haven't seen anything that looks horribly bad. We demoed things at the RLA show in February where we were using, I think we did some labels with like 1,500 characters on it, and that was a lot of stuff. Remember, not all information actually is physically on the label. Sometimes you're saying that you want the information to come off of a website or someplace else, so it's redirecting it. And the standard, by the way, has allowed us to compact a lot of information where other ways of formatting the information, and I will not go technical, I promise, but other ways of formatting the information would have used up a lot more space than the way that we're doing it now. So, Mike, did that answer your question? I know it was kind of like a lengthy answer.
Yeah, no, I think it answered the question, but the other question that I would have is there a standard generated yet to say what is on each code? So if you ended up with 3 or 4 of these, you said, well, pre-sales is this type of code, service is this type of code. Is there a labeling on the code itself that says this is post-sales, this is pre-sales, so that as the customers as the suppliers add more labels to it, you can tell which one you need to scan, or you're going to have to scan them all and say, no, this isn't the one I want. No, I've got to scan the other one.
We've talked about that, about the need to just write some English text characters below the QR code to like, okay, this is a field service, or this is marketing, or we've talked about sort of some different labels to write underneath the QR code so to address exactly that question.
Okay, I'm wondering does it work if you put a color behind it, or do you have to have white? So you could set up a standard that says all yellow codes are pre-sales, or light blue are shipping or recycling or something.
I think the way that companies are probably going to do it is, because you want to have contrast between those little dots in the code. Yeah, you can have different color backgrounds as long as the scanner can differentiate it. But I think in all likelihood, most companies will put something around the QR code, different colors, or some words underneath, or maybe the company's name, something like that.
All right.
To differentiate those things. Also, there are websites you can even find them on where you can generate a QR code and stick like a logo in the middle of it, and technically feasible. It uses up some of the space that's used for error correction in the code, so I'm not super excited about doing it that way, but it's certainly up to the manufacturer, supplier, if they want to try and embed a logo or something in the middle of the code.
Yeah, it'd be up to them. It's going to reduce the amount of content they can put in there, but if you want to send people to a URL, obviously the natural thing is to give it in sort of a bit.ly type of format to use up as few characters as possible.
Yeah, and we're supporting that in the code that we've got as well.
Yeah.
That just means that it would be a much shorter URL to get to the website or wherever we need.
Yeah. Great question, though. Any other questions? Galen, can you see if anybody's virtually raising their hand? I think maybe Galen is on.
I've been talking with, I saw Tim's question. I haven't seen any other questions, okay? There's just one more person who's trying to connect, and I know it's at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Well, I guess if there aren't any more questions, does anybody else have anything else?
Just Ron, I would just add that if anybody's interested in taking a little bit deeper look at the technology that we're providing, I'd be more than glad to talk to them privately, and you can reach me at 510-353-1868. I imagine we can send that out to the group as well.
Yeah, or yes, certainly send me an email, ronlemke@unr.edu. I should have thought to make the last slide there have all of our contact information so people can follow up with more questions, because we certainly would love to answer them if people have them.
I sent an email out, a chat to everybody so that they could get to the web page, which will give them access to the RL label, to the squirrel label, so that should help everyone. If you just look at your chat section.
Okay. Chat. Okay. Well, I guess if there aren't any more questions, in the interest of honoring everyone's time, I'll thank everybody for participating. We're as I'm sure you can tell, we're very excited about this. I think there's some great opportunities here. I think this can really be a win for consumers. It can be a win for retailers. It can be a win for manufacturers. It can be a win for refurbishers. I really think there's a way to help. I guess we didn't mention it, but we're not charging anybody to make these QR codes or anything. So it's not going to cost anything on our side to use them, just to have them. Anything else?
Yeah, just so as not to cause confusion, the products InforMission has are actually there's some charges associated with those because of the technology and storing all the data about where the scans are and things like that. But yeah, people are definitely free to go off and try and create one-off tools, to make the codes. It certainly is possible. I think anybody who's doing any volume probably is not going to want to do it on homegrown tools.
No, they're going to want to license some software for that.
I think so. I think so. We'll see.
Yeah.
You can talk to people regardless of how they want to go forward on that, and then they can always make their own choice.
All right. Well, I know we're a little over an hour, so I want to thank everyone for your patience and participation, and please contact any of us if you have any questions. So thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.